Live in 5, 4.
Okay, we're back in session again, and our next topic on the agenda is the ASNIC report. Christopher Dean.
Good evening, Dr. Dunlap, Mr. Chair, Board, and guests. Tonight, ASNIC Senator Andy Hughes would like to present to you about a student recreation center. He is joined by the Director of Student Development, Alex Harris, and Assistant Director of Student Development, Heather Erickson. And they, along with myself and Vice President Graydon, will be available for questions afterward. And with that, Andy Hughes.
Good evening, Board, President Dunlap. For over a decade, ASNIC boards have had the same conversation. How do we meet the needs of our constituents, and what are those needs? Over and over again, the students of NIC have professed the desire for a student recreation center. As the elected representatives of the students, we stand in front of you tonight, once again, to express the desire of our constituents. We, the Associated Students of North Idaho College, recognize the important role health, fitness, and recreation play in the lives of well-rounded citizenry. NIC's mission, vision, and values state, as a comprehensive community college, North Idaho College strives to provide accessible, affordable, quality learning opportunities. North Idaho College endeavors to be an innovative, flexible leader recognized as a center for educational, cultural, economic, civic activities by the communities it serves. Not only does the Student Recreation Center support this vision, it shouts it. We need a modern, comprehensive, on-campus facility in which a broad range of fitness, educational, and recreational opportunities are available to the average NIC student. The vision the students have for a recreation center include a full-size gymnasium, multi-activity court, indoor track, locker rooms, weight training facility, cardio and circuit training equipment, fitness activity studios, wellness classrooms, and an indoor climbing center. The NIC Student Recreation Center would serve to enrich quality of student and campus life through knowledge, opportunities, and interests that promote healthy lifestyles. Extensive programs including intramural sports, wellness activities, physical education classes, sport clubs, outdoor pursuits, and special event opportunities would be provided to explore one's limits, learn new skills, and explore achievements. Over the last decade, our student representatives have expressed their support for a student recreation center fee. To make this project a reality, this year's board is no different. As has been said in the past, through a student advisory vote and in many ASNIC resolutions, we support a fee of up to $100 a semester to make this dream a reality. Tonight, we're asking the board to consider implementing a student recreation center fee in this year's budget and direct the NIC administration to begin plans for construction. Thank you.
Any questions? Oh, yes. Christie?
Well, thank you for your presentation and your passion. It's very clear. You know, you're right. This has been talked about for years and years and years, and students, unfortunately, because we're a two-year institution, by the time the conversation gets to a level where something might actually happen, those people have moved on and graduated, and you start over. Yeah. And so I respect what you've been through, and Heather, who's been here since the beginning of time, as a student and as someone in your position and now as a faculty member, staff member, she really can see the big picture. So your request was pretty bold. $100 fee for semester. And I guess give us a little feedback, because we just want to know how many students were surveyed, and do you feel that you really have the support for this fee? Because it's money out of their pocket. It's not out of our budget. You're paying for it. So give me a hint.
I don't know exactly myself how many students were surveyed because of the time that we're at community college and it was a 2-year program and whatnot. And so I wasn't here when that survey was done, but I hear other people.
Okay.
The numbers for the actual numbers of how many people were surveyed and what the advisory vote was and all of the study that was done was forwarded to you guys in an email and has all that specific information. But I think the real point is that these students, the ASNIC students, are the elected representatives of the student body. Every year, the student body gets a chance to vote, and they do a great job, you know, getting students to participate in that election. And these guys unanimously have voted to uphold the student recreation center and the fee that goes along with it.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Well, before we do this, hang on. I didn't mean to cut you off on your presentation. I thought we'd ask questions of each presenter as they went along, but if there were was there more presentation that you were going to make?
Short and sweet.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Todd.
It's a smart man. Yeah. More of an observation, I guess. I understand what you just said, and I can appreciate that. And there's kind of a fine line between being an elected official and feel that you're empowered by that choice that the citizenry has made, or in this case, the student body. And yet, a lot of times, especially in a fiscal consideration, folks would desire an additional voice. And I use the city of Coeur d'Alene and the McEwen Field project as an example of an expenditure that a lot of people didn't feel was appropriate for their elected officials just to move forward on, and they wanted a voice as a community because it was a rather significant thing. $100 out of a budget may be considered a significant thing for young broke college students. We've heard that already in defense of having the PTE facility potentially on campus versus off-site because we don't have gas or time, and we've heard those stories. And I don't mean to diminish those, you know, guys riding their bikes. Honestly, I'm quite impressed with that young person. I'd love to meet him sometime. They were telling me all weather conditions. He'd come in covered in mud and rain and snow, and the dude's coming every day, and he's not missing class. I'm impressed beyond belief on that. But anyway, to my point, though, is that I still think that there needs to be a voice for your constituency as elected officials, and make sure that you're not just operating under the premise that everybody's good to go and that this data, however aged it is, and it, you know, precedes you, so maybe it's a year, 2, 3, 4. Is that still popular in the consensus and where you're at? And I think you might need to poll your folks and see if everybody still feels that way. And anyway, that's just, again, as much as an observation as anything is, you know, as elected officials, that's a fine line you walk. We as board members are considering that with the event center. Do we just go out there and take taxpayer money, or do we put it to a vote? You know, all these different things are considerations.
I can speak to that since
Learn
actually if Heather's been here longer than time, then I predate time.
You're dirt then, sort of?
Working with the associate students for 10 years and as one of their advisors currently, we often struggle with the question about how often do we poll the students and how do they balance their elected them being elected representatives versus polling and asking their constituents what their opinion is, especially when it comes to money. In 2006, I believe, and it says there, the students were encouraged by the board at that time to take an advisory vote on this issue, and those results are in the packet you received. So the students did that in their general election. It was overwhelmingly supported for up to a $100 fee. The hesitancy on my part as their advisor is the student body begins to get gun shy if they're asked to vote and on an issue such as the recreation center. We dealt with some backlash from that from students saying, well, we all voted on it, how come it's not here? And you know, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on the way you look at it, in Idaho there's not a binding vote by students in the community college system. In some states there are. So we hesitate without direction from the board to advise the students to go out and poll. But I know we've talked about that many times, and if that's something that comes of this presentation, then I would be happy to help the students do that.
Christie?
Mr. Chair. Well, again, I know that this subject has been on students' minds for years, and it's and we do need this sort of a center, and I do support it. I think your budget you've laid out pretty clearly for us, so we just need to spend some time going through it. And another real comment real quick, I'm a proud city employee. I just think I'll throw that out there. Anyway, I am excited about this. I hope that we're able to do something for the students. They're bringing this forward, board, and they've done their homework. And I know this is first reading, but I hope that we as a board can do everything we can to support what they've determined they need on this campus, and they're willing to pay for it.
Judy?
I need a clarification on the information we have. What we were given this time is a summary of the March 2005 report, right? And it's a summary, the executive summary. And then the budget numbers, I didn't have a date as to, is this the budget numbers from that report, or is this a more recent one? And my question too had number of students we talked to.
The additional Excel spreadsheet that was attached with that was an updated version with 2011 numbers.
2011, and at that point, number of students that you checked with, or does that reflect the student body poll you did at that time?
At that time, there wasn't a poll. That was where you were here. That was done because the administration asked at the time the associate students, what they felt. The students started working on the project again, which they've done quite a few times over the decade. So they went out to the consultants that they had contracted with in 2005 and asked if they could get an update on the overall numbers. And that the consultant at that time did provide those numbers free of charge.
So, just to follow up on, thank you. So what we have in front of us for a summary of, based in 2011, reflects, I think the fee there you talk about is $121 on this chart?
I believe what you have is many different scenarios that were provided at the time, and they just updated what was done back in 2000.
Okay, so as part of what we're trying to get hold of today is be sure we have realistic numbers for students who are now enrolled and who would participate and what they're really willing to pay. Okay, thank you.
Help me understand is how many students are currently paying some dues in ASNEC, and then the second question would be, will there be a two-tier program? A student comes on and he says, I currently have a health club membership. I don't think I'll use that, so I won't pay this additional amount. Or will there be you will raise everybody's fees up to this level?
I think Vice President Stanley, having the experience at a previous institution and building a rec center, much like the vision that our students have, could probably answer some of the things that were talked about before it was built there.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, a long time ago in a place very far away, a place that I was employed. In fact, 5 years ago, the College of Southern Idaho built a rec center, and I was intimately involved in both the representing that to the students, designing the structure, and then the operations of it as well. It was wholly supported by students. It was a fee that went to all students on campus. Of course, that's proportional based on the number of credits that you're enrolled in. A full-time student, it'd be this much. A one-credit student, it's only that small percentage of it. Students didn't, like the other services on campus, have an opportunity to opt out because they had other opportunities. It was extensively utilized. It was way more than the institution ever imagined it would be, both in terms of a recruiting tool, in terms of an employee wellness tool, in terms of a community attraction. I think it was one of the best investments that a community college down south ever made, and I'm wholly supportive of this facility on North Idaho College's campus based on my experience.
And Ron, let me suggest, maybe in response to your question, ultimately those fees are the responsibility of this board to set, and so we would be setting those fees, and whether or not there's an opt-out provision or not would be part of our discussion at that time. I think what they're proposing right now is an across-the-board increase for all those that presently pay the student fees, that it would be increased by $100. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Two things, and I think you kind of, the one, although I see a different scenario, it would be an opt-out scenario potentially for the PTE folks if we do have them on a geographically separated facility, because some of them may not have any desire to come use facilities on the campus. Another scenario, though, I guess I'm curious, and I know it's in the packet and I've looked and everything, but I kind of want to hear it from you. Assuming that this event center comes to fruition in some capacity, in some location, and then we have this facility called Christensen Gym and everything that goes with that. What's the feasibility of converting that or using that for, working out and as a rec center and some of that? Granted, you know, I look at what the wrestling has and basketball, and it's kind of a joke about all that. But for student use, that might be adequate versus intercollegiate utilization. Is that something on your radar that could be done? Is that facility such that?
In terms of updating Christensen's Gymnasium?
Yeah, I mean, have we costed that out to see what that would?
We haven't costed it out, but that's definitely within the realm of possibility, and we would be for that.
Oh, no, I see someone shaking their head behind.
No, yes.
Okay.
No, yes.
I was going to go, are you going yes, or are you going no?
When I was shaking my head was you weren't asking her to cost that out. What basically one of the things that's been done over the past 10 years is students want direction from the board on where to go. And I don't think the students are saying they want a facility and this is what they want in it. This is what was done when the study. This is when they go out and they talk to their other students on what they want in it. It's up to the board, as we saw in the discussion earlier, what that looks like, where it is, if it's a remodel, if it's not, and all those kind of things. So what they're looking for is the support. One of the hard things we do is we start over every year with the students with the information on how to do that. So
I'm a new trustee, so I don't have all the history, so I apologize if that question was stretching you guys. I just didn't know what had been done and kind of what background you looked at, taking into account.
Originally, what we looked to do was to present something similar to what was presented before about all the different details and the concerns and the money of it and how to do that. And what we found was we're not qualified to do that. We're not economists or vice president of student services. We're students, and we're just looking to show you what the students want and what is on their radar and what we're getting feedback from and about.
Judy?
Thinking then about this facility, either retrofit or new, how does that fit into the facilities plan of the master plan? I didn't look at, is that in that list somewhere?
A rec center is in the educational master plan, and we have looked at two options. One is to build something new, and the other is to renovate and add on to the Christensen gym.
And what priority is that on the list?
That's about the third priority on the list.
Just as a matter of procedure, let me suggest something. You're acquainting us with this, the students' desire to move forward with this and giving us some parameters in terms of the amount that the students may be willing to pay. I think it's probably incumbent upon us to actually address a specific motion. And so between now and the next meeting, and I know that may seem like a long time, but I would suggest that you put together a specific motion that we can pass on that has in it the working within the $100 per student fee, and then the kinds of facilities that you would like to see. And then that motion would be presented to the board. We discuss it. If it's passed, then we would move it on to a planning stage, which would give you the movement ahead I think you're looking at. But I think we need something fairly specific to pass on as a motion, and you've given us, I think, pretty good knowledge of what would be in that. But for next meeting, if you could put something together specifically in the form of a motion, and we'll help you with that. I mean,
Administration should.
so that you can get the motion put together so it's got the information in it we need.
Most definitely.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much, all of you. Christopher, did you have any other report from the ASNIC, or was that it?
I did not. That was it.
Okay, thank
We
you.
get his short and sweet.
Staff assembly. Garry Stark.
Thank you, Chairman Howard, trustees, Mark Lyons, President Dunlap, and guests. I gotta make this really quick. Lanny Stein said I had a minute and a half, and I think I can do it. We did have a meeting on the 14th of March. We did a lot of cool stuff, but I just have one thing to report on. We had a special guest that showed up that day, and she was wearing a special shirt. As you guys, I put a little picture on your seats there, and you have one there in the envelope. Kathie?
Yes.
But she was a great sport. She came in and she wore this shirt, and she wore it proudly. But the biggest thing is, Kathie, you were awesome in the competition. Staff was awesome. Faculty was awesome. We went from 59% to 84%, and that's just awesome for everybody else. With that said, it came down to a couple votes, a couple people here or there. So Pam Noah, she's in the foundation office. She had to go to HR and make sure that this person is faculty, this person is staff, to make sure that, because some people do both, and wanted to make sure that we had the correct numbers. And I gave her a couple dollars just to make sure it was the right vote. No, I didn't. But anyways, if it would have been one more day, if they would have had an update and it would have said that staff was leading by 2 percentage points, you would have been out there and you would have passed us up. So either way, it was a great competition. Anyways, that's my report. And I just wanted to make it quick. So,
Right. Any questions?
Any questions?
Just a comment. I'd like to thank faculty and staff for doing such a great job. And Gary, you might want to show the board that because the faculty is so optimistic about next year, that this is a traveling shirt and has a removable piece there.
She keeps saying that this piece can come off and it can say faculty is the biggest giver. But hopefully we won't make that sticker next year, so.
Short-lived.
Todd?
I was just going to ask if the dress and heels were put in storage for next year.
Any other questions or comments? Gary, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Faculty Assembly,
Great job, guys.
Kathie O'Brien.
Chair Howard, Board of Trustee members, President Dunlap, Mr. Lyons, and honored guests. Thank you. I will also make this as quick as possible. At our last meeting, Dr. Burns came to visit and talk to us about different things that are going on with online teaching, different options for faculty for online teaching. And the bulk of our conversation revolved around a resolution that it ended up being a draft resolution coming forward as far as the RIF policy is concerned. And I want to thank Dr. Dunlap for coming to the last part of our meeting, not speeding down the highway from Sandpoint, but getting there very quickly. Christie, he didn't speed. Okay, just saying. And really helping faculty understand what's going on with that process. They did ask me to come to you, and so I feel it is incumbent that I do present that there is a resolution on the table with Faculty Assembly regarding the RIF policy and the board's response to that. We did table that resolution until our April meeting with the understanding that we would have some response from the board. So we really appreciate Dr. Joe, you coming, and all of you working on that. And there is a very hardworking, dedicated group of faculty members who've spent a lot of years on this. So we would encourage you, as you look at that, to ask them questions and find out the kind of things they went through and the research they did, because it's deep and it's thoughtful. And I would really encourage you to call any and all of those faculty members to talk about why the policy was written the way it was. So in April, that resolution will come back to Faculty Assembly, and we'll act on it then. The last thing I want to say is congratulations to Garry and his staff for beating us out. Although I only needed 2 more faculty members, I tried really hard. But I also want to tell you that that effort was mentioned at the accreditation exit interview today. So I was really proud of us, because the accreditation team recognized what a great accomplishment that was to have that many employees as a part of the giving campaign. So that was really nice. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for Kathie?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. John Totten is next for the Senate.
Good evening, Chairman Howard, trustees, President Dunlap. All of you are hanging in there. In regards to the Senate report tonight, all I have to say is that we passed a resolution in our desire to hear an update in regards to the reduction in force policy, and I've been assured that we will. So we look forward to that. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions, John? We're getting through this really quickly. We wear you out before you get up there. And then okay, President's report. Dr. Dunlap.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have three announcements to make. First of all, Andy, who manages our video production here, has indicated that we now will be able to broadcast into Post Falls on Channel 13, and they will be able to see NIC Today as well as the board meeting. And that, for example, tonight's board meeting will be made available first thing in the morning for both Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls, Channel 19 in Coeur d'Alene, 13 in Post Falls, and it'll be available for scheduling and airing. And there is an open time slot at 6 p.m. on Wednesdays should all of you decide you want to broadcast live future Board of Trustee meetings into Coeur d'Alene. That's not available yet to Post Falls, but that's certainly an opportunity, and you may at a future date want to discuss that and make a decision whether you want that live or delayed. And not that it's delayed and edited, it's just that it would be more timely. Today, we had a tremendous amount of individuals involved with the reverse job fair that was out at the Real Life Ministries in Post Falls. And a number of employees from the foundation and the college were there as volunteers. And then the foundation provided two $1,000 scholarships to students who participated in that. And so myself and Tim Combreck were out there along with Rael to make that award. And the two winners, one was Amanda Frank and the other was Megan Pierce. And they're high school students and have that opportunity. And us with the Manufacturing Consortium had the three largest scholarships that were presented out there today. So good job on that. The last thing I want to cover is our accreditation outbrief. As you're aware, we had our accreditation visit this week. The accreditation team was comprised of 8 individuals from a variety of colleges throughout Washington State. And they came and did a very, very comprehensive look at the college. And first of all, I'd like to thank the faculty and staff and students who participated and did so much work to help prepare the college for that effort. And in particular, I want to recognize Karen Ruppel and Ann Lewis for their really tremendous efforts. So thank you so much. There were 5 recommendations and 5 commendations, and I'd like to just briefly give you an outline of those. The final accreditation report will come to us later this summer once the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities meet and confirm those recommendations and commendations. And so first of all, the recommendations. The first one is that it is recommended that NIC fully engage in comprehensive planning that is informed by clearly defined data that supports budget and core theme attainment. And I mentioned that earlier. The first step was for us to develop that educational master plan. The next step is we need a facilities master plan, and then we will need to update our strategic plan. So this is an ongoing quality improvement process, and we will embark on that but not before spring break. The second recommendation is that core themes designed with mission, vision, and values in mind are informed by defined data. And what they mean by that is that we have an enormous amount of data points that is gathered by our institutional researcher. And there is more data collected than what we actually need. And we need to refine that, hone it down to the data we need, and focus specifically on that data. The third recommendation is that we refine our core theme assessment. In other words, we have 3 core themes, and that we define specifically the data that is needed to measure core theme attainment. Fourth, it was recommended that we fully staff library services with qualified personnel. Now, that recommendation comes from the fact that a number of years ago, the chief librarian had departed. The college had gone out on a search and has not hired a new head librarian. And so those responsibilities were split up amongst 2 individuals here on campus. And so the recommendation is that we look at putting back in place a full-time, fully qualified librarian. And then the 5th recommendation is that we develop and implement a transfer credit policy to advise both incoming and departing students. Now, we already do that, but we don't have that codified in a procedure or in a policy. And so a couple of these are relatively easy to fix. This planning will take a longer period of time, and we will probably have a focused interim visit in 5 years. So that's the good news. I mean, we are in good shape and have a period of time to address those planning issues. Now, the 5 commendations are that, first of all, NIC employee commitment to students and student success is unsurpassed, and that relates to the rivalry that the faculty and the staff had over the fundraising and about our employees' commitment to our students. The second commendation was for library staff and English faculty for the development of an information literacy program with measurable outcomes. And so that is a source of pride, and they have done a very good job at that. The third commendation, I should say, is that physical plant staff for their commitment to environmentally sound practices and student success. The accreditation team was very impressed by the fact that our facilities and grounds crew felt that they contributed to student success on this campus and were not relegated to some other position. And so Garry and Ron, congratulations to your folks on that. The 4th commendation was for a high level of community engagement and support. And you've heard me say before that this community is more engaged with the college than any other higher institution that I've seen. And so our community and the college is commended for that relationship. And then lastly, the college was commended for the establishment of employee professional development opportunities, our wellness program, and for implementing staff sabbaticals, which we recently did, and Garry Stark was the first recipient of the staff sabbatical. And Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for President Todd?
I have one. And this may be related and they may not. I know the gentleman that was the librarian wrote both a commendation and a recommendation, and I wasn't aware of that staffing issue. But I made a promise to a young man today when I stepped out of the Student Union building after the exit, I was going to call it an interview, but the report by Tana, engaged with a couple of young men, had a table set up outside. They were doing a little recruiting for their club. And it was a great visit with these 2 young men. And one of them asked me a question. He said, "You're a trustee, and I said, "Okay." So he says, "I study in the library, a lot in the library." He says, "That's my primary resource." And he says, "Library closes at 3 o'clock on Friday, is closed on Saturday, and is only open for part of the day on Sunday." He goes, Can you bring that up or ask that question or see what we can do about that? Because he says, I do use the library for my studying, and it really hurts me to not have that more available from Friday afternoon, evening on through Sunday evening. And so I don't know if that's a component of part of that recommendation or not, with the hours, with the staffing, if that impacts. Or?
It is not a component of that recommendation, but we can certainly take a look at the hours of operation and get back with you in terms of what our level of staffing is and what our capability is.
Okay.
Any other questions of the president on his report? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is old business, and there is none. So the new business, first reading for the college calendars. Graydon?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, President Dunlap, there's been a lot of applause tonight, and I'm hoping that I can draw some of the same for just presenting the calendar. So, and with that, I conclude my report. That's it. I'm done.
Well, and for looking good.
Thank you. Every year at this time is traditional. The calendar is presented for upcoming years. This one moves to you through tab number 1 and is for 2019 and 20 and 2020 and 21. So we are certainly looking forward that way. Those recommendations that come from the calendar committee that consists of representatives from all stakeholders here on campus, from faculty and staff and students, and some of the work that they did in conducting surveys here on campus, recommends no changes to the traditional calendar. The start and stop dates follow the tradition that's been set previously. The one change that you might note if you've seen these previously is we used to have a number of the other specific dates for operations, last day to drop, last day to add, a number of things that dictate our operations during the course of the semester. As we're looking that far forward, to put those dates in place is probably inappropriate because some of our operations may change. But the stop and the start and the holidays are certainly ones that won't change for us. In addition to that, there's a recommendation that we need board approval on as well for a change to a previously accepted calendar for the 2019 spring semester, and that was, we had that starting on January 7th, which is a week prior to the traditional second week starting date for spring semester. We're asking on behalf of the calendar committee that you approve that change to move to January 13th, as is traditional for all other spring semesters.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report?
It certainly does. Thank you.
Question that over the years, there's been an effort to have this calendar coordinate with the school district calendars. Where are we in that process here?
You know, that was part of the surveying process as well, trying to coordinate that, and we found that to be a rather difficult task because those dates move from the various places. Also, in trying to coordinate with the calendars of the other colleges and universities, and allow time for us at the end of spring semester to process all the probations and the financial aid and paperwork that needs to be in place for the start of spring semester. This follows a traditional college calendar. In some places it matches up with our local school districts, in others it doesn't. But we've certainly taken all that in consideration, and this is really the best ground we can find.
Ron?
Just an observation, this is the first time I've ever clapped for a calendar that goes out 7 years out. This is incredible.
You know, I just want to let you know that we work that far in advance right now. We're going to bring back 2030 to you shortly.
Any other questions or comments? Graydon, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next agenda item is an action item, the approval of the aerospace facility lease. Ron Dorn.
Board Chair, board members, before you in tab 2, you have the background information, discussion information, and the financial impact of the lease that's been negotiated relative to the implementation of the aerospace program. I really don't have too much more to say about it, except that if you look at the financial impact, the area there, we do have in that, as it is a 5-year, 1-year renewal option lease, that we do have a non-appropriation clause in there, and also we have a clause within the lease that if we do not get the correct zoning from paid on this, that we also are able to back out of this lease and not go forward with it. So both of those safeguards are in this lease as written, for your perusal and for your, hopefully your approval.
Any questions?
Just reading the information you gave us, which does not include the lease. You identified the land area as 4.888 acres. When I first read it, I read 4,000. So
No.
it is 4+ acres.
Yes.
Which includes the building
Yes.
and the parking.
There's a building, there's an outbuilding with it, there are two buildings on that site.
Which we would be using,
Yes.
those buildings. And then I think it's important to have that exit strategy, which is if we don't get the appropriation funding, then we have an exit from the lease.
Yes, we do.
Okay? And then the final question would be, has our attorney reviewed the lease?
Yes.
Yeah, the answer to that is yes, we have reviewed the lease. In fact, we were largely involved in drafting the lease. If the lease was necessary to get in place to begin the grant monies coming in, that was necessary to have that in advance. The lease is in fact executed, of course, subject to board approval. And if the use turns out that there's any problems, which we don't anticipate there will be, then there is an exit out of the lease, which is not an event of default. So ultimately, what the board needs to consider as to whether the board will approve the lease, which I think the recommendation is all around is that the board should approve the lease, and authorize the board chair to also execute the lease.
The commencement date is March 1st?
Yes, it's already commenced.
Okay.
Any other
But
questions?
subject, again, it was necessary to have that in there to start the grant process. So again, subject to board approval.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that we approve the aerospace facilities lease for $4,900 per month
And authorize.
and authorize the board chair to move forward and sign the lease.
Is there a second?
Meyer, second it?
All right, is there any discussion on the motion?
Just one quick question, Ken, is do we have some cost of living index that goes on if we choose to extend this?
Don't believe we have that in this lease, Ron, at this point in time. I think it's $4,900 a month for the Mark. I don't think we got a cost of living here, did we?
Well, after the first year of the lease, there is a
Escalator of 3%.
all urban consumer price index adjustment to that.
If there's no other questions.
But again, let me just say, it's limited to 2% in any given year.
There are no other questions. Let me make just a point of order. Normally, this would be a first reading, and we would have a second reading. But given that the dates are important, we also have the authority to make this a final motion. Whoever made the motion, I guess I'd like to hear from them.
Can I ask one question,
Yes,
Chair? I'm
you
sorry,
have
sir.
a question?
We're putting the OPRV folks out there with the aerospace folks. Does their presence there drive this in any capacity, or if we were to be able to relocate them more quickly, do they have to be there all 5 years for this to make sense for us?
Joe?
Yeah, the sense of urgency about this lease is that we could not access the federal funds until we had an address for where we were going to do the training. And in order to do the training by August of this year, we needed to get something in place relatively soon. The intent in moving the OPRV out there is that we will save $84,000 per year by giving up that Ramsey building lease that can actually be used to apply towards this lease. And in the federal funding for the grant, there is, I believe, $76,000 that can go towards the lease as well. So we are well covered for this lease for several years.
Any other questions? And would you include in the motion that it take immediate effect, not be a first reading?
Yes, I would like to include that in my motion.
Second?
You betcha.
All right. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Sign the lease. The next agenda item is the floodworks certification for the city of Coeur d'Alene. I'm going to kind of combine that with the board chair's report, which is the next item. We had a meeting with the city of Coeur d'Alene, a joint meeting with their council, and received a report on the, what I'll call the dike trees, which I think are of interest to all of us in terms of what's going to happen to those in the future. NIC and the city have agreed to jointly retain a consultant to evaluate the issues involving the dike, and they've hired Ron Yeager consultants, and the city's going to pay half of the fee, and NIC's going to pay half of the fee. The issue here is one of being able to get flood insurance for the not just the college grounds, but the surrounding grounds where their residence is. Without a certification from FEMA, then they won't issue any flood insurance, and we would be in trouble in terms of be uninsured and not being able to get other kinds of insurance. So getting the certification is important. Initially, the Corps of Engineers had said you need to cut down all the trees along the dike in order to get a FEMA certification. Since then, there have been some changes. The Corps of Engineers sort of backed away from that a little bit now, and we're trying to get a certification through FEMA, and hence the hiring of the Ron Yeager consultants. They will conduct a study really based in three parts. They'll do an assessment of what needs to be done there. They'll evaluate whether or not they can fall within the requirements of the FEMA requirements. And then the third element is one of design. First two phases are going to involve a contract of about $150,000, half of which to be paid by the college, half by the city. The third phase might be as much as $450,000. So we're looking at a considerable amount of money in the future in terms of looking at these, what's going to happen with the trees and how we're going to be able to resolve that program. Hopefully now what will happen, though, is we're going to be right in the eye of the storm when it comes to getting reports and making sure that we have input with regard to what happens to the trees and the dike and the resolution and the kinds of problems, or excuse me, solutions to the problems that might be suggested. But I just wanted to kind of put you on notice that this is moving forward. The last certification to FEMA was in 2007. Certification expires in 2013. They'll give us some time to get certified, but we don't have a whole lot of time, so we'll be moving forward rather expeditiously on that. We also talked during that meeting about the BLM property, that strip of land that used to be the Burlington Northern right-of-way, that at least the part that's contiguous to NIC property. Down the line, that hopefully will be NIC will have an interest in that. Exactly what that interest will be is still to be determined. But right now, it's kind of a lease to the BLM has been applied for by the city of Coeur d'Alene with NIC's use of the property between Northwest Boulevard and the NIC property as part of that lease agreement. So hopefully we'll be able to move forward in terms of dressing that up and making that. And you can see there are already changes taking place to that strip of land. We also talked about the beach annexation. There's a strip of land along the beach. Part of it's in the county, part of it's in the city. We've had problems getting permits and that sort of thing, and so we need to finally resolve the issue of whether we're going to ask the city to annex the portion of the beach that's now in the county. And that is something that the board's going to have to address in one of the meetings in the near future. You'll see that the monument signs are now fully permitted and being installed. We discussed with the city this event center project that we addressed last time with the resolution. The concept is endorsed, but I can tell you there are going to be problems and a lot of difficulties along the road as we address that problem. So, and President Joe Dunlap is heading a committee to try and address those problems. I had a meeting with the Dorn Housing and Student Union Commission, just basically on their budget. But you'll know that with regard to the request that ASNIC has with regard to the activity facilities and the recreational facilities, that the protocol is that we receive a request from you, it comes to the board, it's our obligation to, with your assistance and the assistance of others, determine the need for that, and then we present it to the Dorm Commission and Student Housing Commission, because they're the ones that have to arrange for funding of it. So that will be going before them, and they were alerted to the fact that it's coming, so it won't be something that'll surprise them, I don't think. We had 2 workshops with regard to the RGU report prior to the report tonight to discuss it and to get acquainted with it. We also took, all the trustees took a review, had a tour of all of those courses that are affected by the RGU report in the professional technical, and it was an enlightening process, I think, for all of us. We learned a lot. We had some good discussions with the people that we were there, and we had an opportunity to physically view a lot of the problems that when you talk about them, it gives you one vision. When you see them, it gives you something entirely different. So it was a really, I think, a healthy activity. We had a meeting with the accreditation committee on campus. I think that was also important because it gave us a sense of the importance of accreditation and what needs to be done. At the NIC Foundation fundraising dinner, is Michelle still here? She's not, but she gave such a nice talk about her background and how much NIC has meant to her, and it was very stirring, and she got a standing ovation from all the people who attended that. They were very, very much impressed with her and impressed with what she's done with the opportunities provided to her. As we go forward with this PTE study, and I think this is the most important thing that I want to say about this, my report tonight. This RGU study that we got tonight is the beginning, and maybe it's not really the beginning because it's been going on for years. And we have studies that were prior to this. We've got copies of those. This RGU study will be put along with those studies on the website so that people can see them and evaluate them. But we need, the board, I think, needs as much input as we can get with regard to every aspect of our community, the educational institutions, the business community, in terms of the factors that we should be looking at to make a good decision here. So in order to try and do that, we're going to have at least 3 public hearings that are scheduled right now. We don't have the specific dates for them, but they'll be concluded and planned within the next week or less. And we would like to encourage everybody to try and get a good turnout. There will be opportunities for public input at these meetings, and the board wants as much public input from as many different sectors as possible. And that means we'll have it from educational institutions, we'll have it from business communities, we'll have it hopefully from students and faculty and just the general community at large. It's an important decision. The fundamental decision that we're going to be making that's going to affect everybody, and it is so important, is where do we put this facility? And we have a lot of difficulties ahead of us in terms of how we pay for it and how we put it together, and can we do it all at once, or we have to do it in stages. But the first decision is going to be where do we put it? And when you look at the prior studies that have been done ever since like 2004 is the earliest study that I've seen, and I think there were some before that, we have wrestled with, we need to do this. We have professional technical problems that need to be addressed, and they've needed to be addressed for a long time. And I think this board is committed to not letting that issue go beyond this year. We want to start looking at how do we solve the problem, and the first choice is going to be where do we put the facility, and that requires a lot of input. There are a lot of factors, a lot of people have interest in it, and from many different perspectives. I would urge you and have you urge people to come to these public forums and stand up and tell us. And if you don't be afraid of giving your evaluation and your point of view, because it's important to us. And the worst thing that can happen is that we have these general public meetings and nobody shows up and nobody says anything, and then we have it later on where we're being asked to make decisions, and it involves issues that we really haven't heard enough on. So I would encourage you to get out there and try and make sure that we get good turnout at these at these public meetings.
Chair, could I ask about that?
Yes.
In addition, if you can't make it to the hearing or something, is there on the website a way for folks to write in their thoughts? Because we want people to have a chance to tell us their ideas any way that they can.
Yes, we'll try and design a way that you can get written comments in. The hearings are going to be recorded, video recorded, so they can be viewed later on, and people can look at them, and if they see something there that they want to comment on, they can do that. We want to try and make this as accessible as possible to encourage as much comment as possible.
Sure.
Yes.
Just a comment, as I've been in probably in excess of 40 professional technical campuses around the world. I've never seen facilities probably as outdated as what we have. I've never seen a demand probably any higher we have. But I'd like to make a comment. I don't think I've seen instructors that are any more committed than what I saw. I got a chance to go with Mr. Myers and Mr. Anderson and went and met individually every one of the instructors and had some open dialogue about what they do with and how they do it. And it's incredible when you go into their welding labs and go into their machinist labs that it's to the point where safety is an issue. But I was just overly impressed with the commitment of all these instructors. So we have everything going for us. If we build a facility, I think the rest will follow. So.
Thank you. Any other comments? Let me close out my report at least by saying that there is some expectation, I think, that there would be tenure and sabbatical issues on the agenda for this month, and we didn't get them on here, but they will be on the agenda for next month, and we will be addressing them next month. And that concludes my report, and we're now open for remarks for the good of the order.
Let's go back to Todd, because he had one that we had to delay. Can you remember what it was from the beginning of the meeting, Todd?
We're going to talk about Philippe.
It was the graphic arts folk.
Yes.
Their program.
And Philippe, would you like to share with us just a few thoughts on the success of your students? You've had a couple different successes, actually.
Please come to the podium.
Why don't you go up to the podium, Philippe, so we can hear you.
You can think on the way.
You got to keep this under half an hour now, Philippe.
Yeah, that was the only thing I was going to warn you, yeah.
Is poor telling us that, but the best way is to have those student talks. They do all the work. We just turn on the light, and these are the heroes. So I'm going to let them talk. So
thank you.
Hello, I am Ryan Maskell, and I wasn't prepared to speak, but it's lovely to meet you all. As far as Business Professionals of America go, it has given me great opportunities to connect with the community, provide support to our college, and just connect with other students. I've traveled, I've seen new experiences, I've learned how to be a leader. I've competed nationally, I've won national awards in my career, and I've met people in my career path that just has benefited me and given me a lot of experience. So it's been a great thing, and Philippe is amazing. Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley. Nice to meet you all as well. BPA, I've been in BPA for a couple years now since high school, and because of BPA is kind of how I've found my way here, and I've joined the post-secondary chapter, and BPA has taught me a lot about leadership and experience, and again, experiences and just like learning and applying my skills in the real world situations. And I have also gone nationally with all of my events, graphic design included, and like what I'm learning in school is what I'm applying in this club. And nationally, I've won like first and second place against four-year universities and colleges all across the country, and it's super, super awesome.
Trustees, thank you for having us tonight. I was just a typical student, just came to school, did my work, went home. I didn't really get involved in anything, and one of my advisors, Ms. Massengill, encouraged me to join BPA. And coupling BPA with my education here at NIC has done tremendous things for me in my life personally and my career. With Standing here before you a year ago, I could not do that because I suffered from severe stage fright. And although you might be able to hear a little bit of it, I have grown leaps and bounds because of what BPA has done for me. And this last March, or actually we're still in March, on March 2nd, I won first place in advanced interview skills, and it's a testimony to what BPA has done for me. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to enjoy this program and allow me to grow in ways I can never tell you how amazing they've been. Thank you.
Philippe, let me ask you if you wouldn't mind. Hearing from them is great. I would like, there are an audience out here that probably don't really fully realize the graphic awards that you folks won and what they are. Would you describe the Addie Awards and what the competition was?
Last Friday, we attended the chapter, the district, and then for the first time ever, we had 2 gold awards, which is very prestigious. The Addie Awards are pretty much the Oscars of graphic design. Ryan will compete at the district and national level. Last year, he was the first NIC student to earn a gold, and we received also 4 other Addies. One actually is interesting enough, since you mentioned the aerospace program. One of our students participated in that competition internally. Kathie Silva came over and gave us an assignment, and she was judged by people in Los Angeles. I said, wow, this is a great logo. In the past, since you gave me the opportunity to talk to you, our graphic design program has also designed a logo for Kitech, since it was kind of a good topic today. We designed this way back when, so we are the doer, we're behind the scene, we're doing a great job. In front of you, you have 3 students that are currently working in the field of the study. You just got a job. It's great. Ryan is working for a startup company here. I'll shout out. And then Ashley is working with another student from our program that have yet to graduate, already working for Steve Wilson at the Chamber of Commerce. And if you have the pleasure to look at the directory, the new directory that has been designed, that's been done by an IC graphic design student currently enrolled in our program. So we really love the community, and I'm sure that the community loves our students. And I will conclude to also give a great shout out to my good friend Kathie O'Brien, who has led the Business Professionals of America club, and I know I have big shoes to fill, but I think we're going to do good at national. That's the first time ever this year we finished 1st and 2nd and 3rd in the state of Idaho, competing against university in graphic design and SIM in web design. Our web design program is thriving. We need your support. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on your success. Congratulations on your success. It's amazing, quite frankly, what some of these awards that you brought to NIC. With that, that concludes the meeting, and we are adjourned, unless there's other comments for the good of the order.
The calendar was the only other thing. Talk about commitment to go to ACCT in September, and the board will figure that out later.
I think we can figure it out later.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did have an update question, and that was, when you mentioned going green and so on, where are we on the garden effort for our use of our land? It's spring. Are we growing something?
Seeds in the ground.
Yeah, actually, I think they're going to be reporting to us next meeting.
Oh, okay, great.
With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.